Once again, we woke up to a chaotic morning that made us ask, what are we going through? It would be a lie to say I couldn't believe what I saw when I picked up my phone because this administration's bar for absurdity is now so high that being surprised is a luxury.
What is shaping up to be a critical week in foreign policy, starting with new escalation of what the Trump administration calls a war against drug cartels in Venezuela. On Saturday, President Trump declared on Truth Social, quote, "To all airlines pilots, drug leaders, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety." Of course, it's not entirely clear what he may mean by that, since he doesn't have the authority to close another country's airspace unilaterally. It's like not a thing, guys. Venezuela's foreign ministry accused President Trump of making a colonialist threat and, quote, "another extravagant, illegal, and unjustified aggression against the Venezuelan people." This all comes days after President Trump warned the United States could expand the attacks on alleged drug trafficking boats to possible land operations very soon. And it follows shocking reporting from the Washington Post that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a spoken order on the first Caribbean boat strike to, quote, "kill everybody." That's according to a source that talked to the Post. Both the Senate and the House Armed Services Committees, led by Republicans, now say they will amplify their scrutiny of the Pentagon and the administration's strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean.
We are entering a week that is described as critical in foreign policy, but which has actually been turned into a powder keg. Who is the star of the show, of course? Donald Trump and his infamous Truth Social account. On Saturday, he woke up and, as if it were his own property, as if he were talking about the backyard of Mar-a-Lago, declared that he had completely closed Venezuela's airspace. Look, in international law, in diplomacy, even in the most basic state administration, there is no such thing as closing a country's airspace on social media, folks. This is not a thing. He has no such authority. But in Trump's world, do facts matter? No. He addresses pilots and airlines telling them, don't fly through there. This reminds me of the attitude of 19th century colonial governors, but the version holding an iPhone. Was the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry wrong to call this a colonialist threat? Absolutely not. This man thinks he can rule the world by setting aside international norms and playing the strong man theater entirely for his ego and his base. But this isn't just a tweet. It's the footsteps of an impending disaster of lawlessness. Before delving deeper into the issue, that horrific kill-them-all order, and the hypocrisy behind it, please remember to hit that like button to support the channel and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. Now let's get to the military and strategic aspect of this, because this is where it gets truly sickening. For days, the Trump administration has been talking about blockading Venezuela under the guise of a war on drug cartels. There are even signs of a ground operation. Friends, haven't we seen this movie before? Remember the 1989 invasion of Panama? Remember how we used the excuse of fighting drugs to overthrow Noriega? History isn't repeating itself. It's being forced down our throats. Right now, nearly a third of the U.S. Navy is deployed in the Western Hemisphere. 1/3. The world's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford, is there. What has the Pentagon been telling us for years? The long-term threat is China. We must focus on the Pacific. So what is this fleet doing in the Caribbean? Is this military buildup for a simple drug operation? Don't make me laugh. This is the exact opposite of the "we will end wars" lie sold to the MAGA base. Trump rallied votes by shouting isolationist slogans like, "We will bring America's sons home." Yet now he is creating a new quagmire right under our noses with no clear purpose or exit strategy. Don't you see the contradiction? The goal isn't drugs. The goal is to realize the regime change fantasies that hawks like Marco Rubio have been dreaming of for years. And of course, Venezuela's oil reserves. The crowd that voted "we don't want war" is now applauding this adventure, launched without even congressional approval, in line with Trump's personal ambitions and the desires of the war barons in his cabinet. It's unbelievable blindness. The report revealed by the Washington Post. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the guy who was promoted from Fox News, anchor to Defense Secretary, who cares more about TV ratings than military discipline. Allegedly, his verbal order during the first boat attack in the Caribbean was, kill them all. Look, this is not a military order. It is a call for massacre. Even in war, there are rules of engagement. You hit a boat, people fell into the sea, they were incapacitated. To fire at them again, to double tap, that is, to execute the survivors. That is the tactic of terrorist organizations, not the United States military. Or let's say it wasn't like that before. Members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, are in shock because it is said that there were no lawyers or military prosecutors, JAG, in the operations room, that everything was conducted through encrypted applications such as Signal, and that they acted with the logic of a gang war, far from any oversight. Trump's let them do it attitude trickles down and turns into murder on the ground. What does kill them all mean? Executing people you don't even know without trial or interrogation. If this is true, forget the Geneva Convention. We are trampling on the most basic human values. And I fear this is only the first sign that lawlessness will become our new normal. Now let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Do you remember what Trump's biggest campaign promise was? I will end endless wars. The MAGA hat-wearing uncles voted for him for this, saying, the globalists are dragging us into war. But what do we see now? An incredible appeasement toward Russia, an atmosphere of, let's make a deal. Even Jared Kushner, who currently has no official role, just being the son-in-law, is running around Florida trying to negotiate peace talks with the Ukrainians. This administration, which seeks a peaceful solution to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, suddenly becomes the most hawkish, most aggressive when it comes to Venezuela. Why? Why isn't the polite diplomacy shown to Putin shown to Maduro? The answer is very simple and just as ugly. Trump likes dictators, but only those who suit his agenda. While trying to play the art of the deal with Russia, he is beating the drums of war against Venezuela. This is not inconsistency, it is strategic schizophrenia. Telling his base, we will not intervene, and then deploying the U.S. Navy to the Caribbean is treating his voters like fools. Under the pretext of, they're sending poison, we're being dragged into a conflict that no one, not even the generals at the Pentagon, fully understands. And believe me, this isn't just a fight against drugs. It's preparation for something else. So why Venezuela? Why now? Let's be honest, when you look at the map, what do you see under Venezuela? Oil. One of the world's largest oil reserves. We remember this story from Iraq, don't we? We all know what came out of the "we're bringing democracy" rhetoric. Moreover, who is sitting in the Secretary of State's chair? Marco Rubio. Rubio is a name who has built his career on hatred for Castro and Maduro, burning with dreams of regime change in Latin America. Now he has his chance, and he is using Trump's impulsive nature to drag America into an adventure with no clear end in sight. The scariest part is that there is no defined policy goal. What is our goal? To overthrow the regime? Just to strike the cartels? Or is it a stage show to polish Trump's strong leader image? They are throwing American soldiers into the fire for an operation with no clear purpose. A commander-in-chief must have a clear plan, an exit strategy when putting his soldiers' lives at risk. But what do we have? Threats from Truth Social and a let's see what happens mentality. This lack of seriousness is a far greater threat to our national security than Russia or China. And Congress, the so-called equal branch, is just watching right now. The kill them all order and the subsequent double tap incident. For those unfamiliar, a double tap is firing again at a target lying on the ground, wounded or immobile, to finish them off. This is a crime under the laws of war. It is an execution. According to a Washington Post report, there were no lawyers in the operations room during these attacks. Normally, every military operation has a JAG, military prosecutor judge, present who would say, "Commander, we can't do this, it's illegal." But what did Pete Hegseth and his team do? They kicked the lawyers out of the room and conducted communications through off-the-record channels. These execution details were concealed during briefings to Congress. Why? Because they know they are guilty. Even during the war on terror, yes, mistakes were made, yes, terrible things happened, but at least there was a procedure, an attempt to make it fit the mold. Here, there isn't even that. A Secretary of Defense who says, kill them all, and commanders who carry out this order without question. This is proof that the U.S. military has ceased to be a state institution and has become Trump's personal militia. If Congress, Republicans, and Democrats alike does not put a stop to this, rest assured that this culture of extrajudicial execution will not remain confined to the Caribbean tomorrow or the day after. Then there's the intelligence aspect, which is a complete black hole. Former CIA official Mark Polymeropoulos said something very critical, very fundamental in an interview. You have to know who you're shooting at. We're blowing up the boats we've identified in the Caribbean, but do we really know who's on those boats? Are we just going to trust Trump's claim that they're sending us poison? Look, the logic is simple. If you're really fighting drugs, you catch those guys. You catch them so you can interrogate them, dismantle the network, and get to the big barons. You can't get intelligence from a dead man. Dead men don't talk. This shoot and move on tactic isn't about stopping the flow of drugs. It's about creating material for the evening news to show how tough we are. It's pure show-for-show brutality. Maybe there were poor fishermen forced to work on that boat. Maybe there were victims of human trafficking. There is no evidence, no court, no trial, just bombs falling from the sky. This is even worse than the mistakes made during the War on Terror, even worse than those drone strikes. Because at least there, on paper, there was a target list, an intelligence file. Here, it's completely random, completely arbitrary violence. By the way, friends, if you've watched this far, please don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a heart in the comments. I have to mention the insidious obsession with secrecy in the way these operations are conducted. What did these guys tell us for years in their rallies? The deep state is plotting against us. The bureaucracy is holding us back. We're going to drain the Washington swamp. So what are they doing now? They're creating their own deep state. They issue operational orders not through official auditable military channels, but through encrypted messaging apps like Signal, so there's no record. So they won't have to answer to history. They kick lawyers out of the room so no one can say, "Commander, this is a war crime." Friends, this is the real deep state. A gang structure that doesn't answer to the public, hides information from Congress, and makes its own rules. Members of Congress, even Republicans, are shouting right now, "You briefed us, but you didn't tell us about these executions, these double-tap incidents. You deceived us." Bypassing the legislative branch, the people's elected representatives, and waging a secret war? This is a clear constitutional crisis. Trump and his team are rotting America's institutions from within, and they are doing so shamelessly wearing the mask of patriotism. But the face beneath that mask is a far greater threat to our democracy than Russia.